Are you buying? Yes. Hey, you're live. Is that Grey Goose?
I guess we're live. All right, we'll get this started. This is Stealing Guests the VMware way. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Sweet. I tend to mumble, so I'm trying not to.
All right, so Justin had what I thought was a pretty good idea.
I have a bit of ADD when I'm at conferences, so.
So anyways, so we wanted to make this presentation a little bit more interactive. And so if you look up at the top of the presentation, you'll see SSID firm and the URL. So basically, during this presentation, we're going to be releasing a tool, and the tool is going to exploit the vulnerability that we're going to talk about. And so if you want to play with the tool before we actually talk about it, you can just go to that URL and download it from there. Of course, you have to connect to the firm wireless network, assuming that no one has taken it down yet.
So yeah, there's instructions on the contest on the web server, and they're giving away a 500 gigabyte portable, what is it, USB drive, right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. Disclaimer.
Well, all right, so the first thing is the disclaimer. So everything that we say, everything that we show, everything that we imply, it's not the opinion of our employers, our dogs, our friends, our neighbors, VMware, Shmoocon, so on and so forth. These are our ideas. And of course, shockingly, the verbiage that's up there was not approved by our lawyers.
That's actually a lie, because I don't have a lawyer, so. All right, so about us, I'm Justin Morehouse. I'm the assessment lead at a large retailer in the southeast US. I actually have a phone call from my mother coming in right now. That's fantastic. I'm not lying, I swear to God. She just took my timer off my phone. That's fantastic. So yeah, I control 58.2% of the MacBook Pro flipping market on Craigslist. This is no lie. I have bought and sold a MacBook Pro today already, and this one is for sale too. So. Find me afterwards.
All right, so I'm Tony Flick. I'm a principal with Firm Associates. My personal belief is that there's nothing better than ketchup. It is the greatest thing ever created.
So real quick, a warning about this presentation, specifically what this presentation is not. This is not a zero-day release. I am really sorry if you thought it was. There's a CVE for this vulnerability, so usually when there's a CVE, it's not a zero-day. Sorry. What this presentation also is not is a demonstration of rocket science. This will become very, very apparent in a couple of slides how stupidly simple this is. But we just thought it was still pretty cool.
So what this presentation actually is, it's a reminder of the fact that virtualization technologies are not perfect. They do have security holes in them. I've been into numerous organizations who swear by the fact that there are no vulnerabilities in virtualization tools, and the matter of the fact is they're not perfect, there are holes in them.
I now have a voicemail from my mother. That's great. All right, so timeline, the most boring slide here. You can just read that, I won't go through it. Some of you may or may not have a problem with the fact that VMware responded on May 21st and they issued a patch on October 27th. But you can talk to me about that. Oh, and another thing, in the VM essay, the advisory put out by VMware, we were the B team for directory traversal. We didn't get the A squad there. So if you don't know what the vulnerability is, that's what it is. Ta-da, a fantastically technical directory traversal vulnerability. But it's cooler than that. At least we like to think it is. So moving on to the identification phase. So how did I identify this vulnerability? I use a super technical way. That I won't go into. It's actually a really embarrassing story because it makes me look like an idiot, actually, how I discovered it. Have a couple beers in me, and I'll let you know how I found that. But I identified it on a VMware server 201 build 156745 on my favorite OS, 12804. So when I originally found the vulnerability, I thought it was localized to the inside of the NAT interface on the host. So for those of you who are familiar with VMware networking and host and NAT mode, so your gateway when you are a NATed host is actually the loopback interface on the host. I'll say that again. When you're in NAT mode and you're a guest, your gateway is the loopback interface of the host. So what did that mean? Because of the directory traversal vulnerability, it meant that I could steal VMs from within other VMs. I mean, I could steal stuff off the host too, but that was like the cool factor. And then I was like, well, wait, that's if you're in natted mode. I was like, that's kind of cool, but not really practical. And that's actually what I submitted to VMware and submitted to Shmoocon.
But anyone ever see this this webpage? Just a show of hands.
They actually rose their hands.
All right, I was about to call you all a bunch of liars, but you kind of took that away from me. So for those of you who didn't know what that was, it was the VMware server's web interface. How about this one? Oh, yeah. Not as many people? All right, you guys are a bunch of liars now. So well, this is the ESX.
This is the one that costs money, though.
This is the one that costs money.
I had one at ESXi before. Maybe I should have left that, but.
Google.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Not that I would ever do this or condone doing it, but if you were to select some key phrases and put them in quotes in Google, like if you need to access this host remotely, you may or may not find people who have this accessible via the internet. So what exactly is the vulnerability? How does it work? So what we're trying to accomplish by showing those two slides were that throw the whole NAT thing out. The web servers that are running that you use to log in to the web access, those are vulnerable too. So we don't need to worry about the NAT thing. So this makes this a little bit cooler in that it's remotely exploitable as long as you have access to the console management network. I'll get into the mitigation stuff later, but unfortunately in my previous consulting life, I saw a lot of organizations that actually didn't segment that console management network. So yeah, that's the timer's gone. So it's my mom. So.
Thank you, Mrs. Morehouse.
So in writing the tool, and you can see here looking at server and ESX and ESXi, server you need the technical .. to execute the directory traversal, and in ESX and ESXi you need the super technical %2e, 6 times for both of them to get to the root of the host system. To exploit the vulnerability, it's not as straightforward as originally thought, but it's still really trivial to exploit because it's good to be root. The web servers on both server and ESX and ESXi are running as root. You can see the arrows there, they're pointing. So the top one's ESX, HTTPS is running as root, HTTP is running as root, and then 8333 and 8222 on server, which are the default ports, they're running as root as well. So that means that we can pull anything we want off the vulnerable hosts. So in testing guest stealer, which we'll talk about in a second, I was pulling down VMX files and I was learning about where the paths were for the guests. And then I went to pull down the VMDK image file and it didn't work. And I had one of those moments where I was like, I'm screwed. Because I thought I had something that was kind of cool and now I don't. But what actually ends up happening, particularly on server, or I should say only on server, is that there's a proxy that actually catches your requests. So if you put IP/UI, it redirects you to a service that's running on 8308, and that's vulnerable. And if you do a /SDK, it redirects you to a service that's running on 8307. If you remember before, I found the vulnerability on 8307 on the NAT interface. So 8308, that's the one with the /UI, the one you're going to get when you just simply log in or when you see the login screen. That's vulnerable, but what I found out is that it only returns certain file types, as I mentioned before, so I couldn't use that. But in reading that proxy XML file, I saw that all I had to do was append SDK to the end of my URL, and it brought me to 8307, which meant good to go. I could steal the VMDK file. For ESX and ESXi, it doesn't matter because they don't do that proxy redirect. All web servers or services, I hated using that term, but they're all vulnerable and they return all file types, so you don't need that SDK / on the end of your URL request.
All right, so I don't want to read off this slide, but basically if you've got a version of these softwares that are in your environment